Hi again, folks. My name is Karen Lohoff, and still, I want to share with you today someone who has impacted me a great deal. I'm going to share this on my blog post. Oh, I can't. Already I've forgotten the name of the post, but it's a, there it is. It's reluctant uh, bipolar. It's bipolar diagnosed reluctant bipolar, something like that. And I've been wanting to do this for some time, and I'm not sure why I have not gotten around to it until today. But when I first learned that I had been diagnosed bipolar, I had a place where I could go that I was only hearing from one individual, it seemed like almost all the time, their experience. And I wanted to have the opportunity to ask questions, to share, and to know more about other people with the illness. And so over time, I became acquainted with Recovery Incorporated. And Recovery Incorporated was started at about the same time that the AA groups were started, in the probably the late 30s of this past century, the 1930s. And Recovery Incorporated was begun by a psychiatrist. And a psychiatrist always has to have an MD. And he was a neurosurgeon. And over the years I came to appreciate that, especially because what he did, his Recovery Incorporated, was not specifically, or maybe even hardly at all, really for mentally ill people. It tended to be more for nervous patients. And the fact that as a neurosurgeon he understood the brain, and he understood all of that aspect of the body, I had a lot of faith in him. And the importance of that was, by the time that I learned about him, he had died in 1954, and I would have been 5 years old in 1954. So I wasn't attending meetings. I wasn't diagnosed bipolar. None of that was appropriate. So what I was gaining from him, he had trained people who came to him to help one another, because as a psychiatrist he was seeing 500 new patients a year. And it's hardly the kind of thing that you go in and you say, well, I've got a turned ankle, and can you see me? And I mean, it was quite involved. And so to handle all of that and to help the people the best that he could, he taught them how to help themselves. And the meetings that he trained people in are still going on today. In fact, you can go online and you can probably become a part of a meeting right there. If you live somewhere where there's a lot of population, there's probably many places that you can go and go to a meeting. I mean, there's meetings in Israel, there's meetings in Ireland, and so there's meetings a lot of different places. But what I really appreciated, because I am a reader, and he put out some books that I just really enjoyed his take on things from. I gained a lot from what he wrote. And not to say I didn't gain anything from the meetings, because I did. In fact, I remember I hadn't been going to meetings very long when I realized that I was in a car with a friend of mine who was going to stop, and who knows take how long, in a store on the way home. And there was something bothering me from school. Something, I don't know if you ever do this, but it's my experience, has been my experience a lot of times, that I will ruminate on things, which is to say for me that I will just chew and chew and chew and chew and chew, or I will go in circles until there's such a huge rut from the same kind of thinking that it's just crazy. It's insane. It's unhealthy. It's boring. It's annoying, and it often will just build things up. And so as I sat there, I thought, I think I've gone to enough of these meetings. I should be able to use the information that I've gained there. And one of the things that they taught was that that you could always take what they called an example. So I take my example at school. Actually, we worked at in the education department of a, I think it was stage 11. They didn't call it stage 11. It was class 11 maybe. Serious children's place. If the children hadn't come there, they would have been in prison, not jail. They would have been in prison. And so whatever it was that I was chewing on, I realized, one of the questions, the first question is, or where you start is, I worked myself up. In other words, it wasn't the other person's fault. I mean, there's no point in looking at the other person's side of it as far as taking yourself away from that situation and down from the workup that you had done. So, I began to work myself up with whatever it was, and then you look at your thoughts, and you mention a couple of those thoughts. And I thought it was really rude, and I thought it was mean-spirited, and what were my feelings? Well, my feelings were outrage. My feelings were taking offense. My sensations. This was really quite fascinating to me, and it may be to you. It may be something that no one else has ever suggested to you. It may be something that you've never applied or tried to use in thinking through what's troubling you, what's bothering you. But I got to realize that I have sensations in particular parts of my body that are very, very telling to me, because I don't often have those particular sensations and those particular places in my body. But when I do, I recognize this can only get worse. This can only get more uncomfortable. This can only get more unhappy if I don't do something about it. And just paying attention to the sensations of your body is a really good thing to do for anyone. And then the next thing was impulses. Well, I had the impulse to smash my hands on the desk, or I had the impulse to, we had large Samoans there who would sit next to our desk in the back of the room and just kind of make sure that things weren't getting out of hand. And so, maybe my impulse would be to say, take this person out or whatever. And it's interesting when you do that sort of thing away really from the experience itself, and you take the time to look through and name what your thoughts and your feelings and your sensations and your impulses are, sometimes that can really help you calm down a lot just right there. But in case that didn't happen, the next thing I was to do was to apply some of the language or some of the principles or some of the techniques that we practiced each time that we met, and each person shared their example. We would go through these things. Now, we had enough material, and I guess it was like a lot of things that I've done. We would go through one book and then through another book. So I guess primarily we would spend time on the one that we were dealing with at the time. And we would come up with things to notice, things to spot, things to see in ourselves that had created more of a problem or maybe had misinterpreted a problem. Now I'm going to slip for a minute into a paragraph or two that I read before beginning this video because I wanted to share something specific with you, and hopefully it'll help you. But Dr. Lowe was speaking with one of his patients and explaining, as he would explain very carefully and clearly how the body worked, how the part of the body I told you about that he dealt with. And, he would often talk about the difference between the doctor and the patient. Because in things having to do with nerves and things having to do with mental states, people often will think that they are just so right. They are just so absolutely correct, right, that they really don't need to be taught anything. They don't need to be told anything. Not that they would say that to anyone. It's just the behavior. It's just the attitude. It's just the approach to learning. Oh, so you're the doctor, I'm the patient. You would know if what I'm suffering is serious or not, and I would tend to exaggerate the importance of what I'm suffering. Basically, that's what he was letting this man know. Your symptoms are not serious. These symptoms here, these exact symptoms you're describing having to do with this are not serious. You can forget them. You can not take them seriously. And the man clung on to his idea that they were very serious. And as Dr. Lowe explained when his family came in, probably trying to argue for the man, this is a serious matter, and we don't feel like you're taking it seriously enough, and we want some relief. He explained that when there is a patient who does not accept that the doctor knows that this is not serious, that he can basically forget those symptoms, ignore those symptoms. What he explained to the family was when a patient decides instead to take them even more seriously, he is assigning importance to those symptoms, an importance that is not there. And as he assigns that importance to the way he sees oh, I'm sorry. That was really dumb. Okay. Um, when he assigns that importance, he wants that importance to be there for his spouse, for his children, for his neighbors. In other words, I'm sure we all know someone who is just caught up with something in particular, and it's interesting to me as I think about this that there is someone online I've run into who insists that things that he decided long ago was the case, whether or not anyone else saw it that way, he wants to make it important to me. He wants to make it important to others that have nothing to do with the original situation. It's you know, something he is holding on to. And so I wanted to share this with you. And actually, I've kind of gone through part of the third part. The rest of it is not only to find spots where you see your situation, but rather also you find tools with which you can help yourself. And then the fourth thing is, over time, you will recognize, and as you go through an example, you'll be able to say, I'm improved. I used to experience this, and I've improved. I've been able to see this differently, and I've been able to handle it differently. I so much wanted to share this with you because it did so much for me. It has helped me so much. You can go online to Recovery Inc. I think it's Recovery Inc. Actually, it's better to just Google it. Google Recovery Inc. or look up Dr. Abraham A. Lowe, L-O-W, Dr. Abraham A. Lowe, and you'll be able to find lots of things that can kind of direct you. You can probably, again, find a meeting near you, and I will likely share more of this in some of my other posts. Thank you. Bye.